Hello everyone. Our team prepares the content about data-driven control of exoskeleton for optimal lifting task assistance. Each of our members is going to present each section. Our team is working on a project to produce and improve the content of iCraft paper. They control the hip exoskeleton using the Leapers running algorithm. In the previous study, they assist the walking motion with running-based control. But unlike their system, ours is mainly developed for the purpose of assisting in lifting an object. In the beginning, our plan was to implement their learning-based control method to our hip joint exoskeleton. But we decided to change our plan to focus on nonlinear behavioral actuator used in our exoskeleton. Although this actuator has several mechanical advantages, it is necessary to solve many issues like unidirectional control, material hysteresis, and creep. So we considered the SPI algorithm to overcome our problem.
For the learning process of the exoskeleton, the first approach that we have adapted is LSPI algorithm. LSPI is a kind of reinforcement learning and it allows the program to learn from the state action value function. In this project, we have chosen to use the LSPI library. This is a Python library with several reinforcement learning algorithms and is targeted for conducting sequential decision-making experiments. It is a library useful for carrying out reinforcement learning. The most important factor of choosing LSPI library for us is that it includes the LSPI algorithm in one of its default agents. This can reduce our workload and we don't have to declare a new agent ourselves. This is the overview of the structure of our PY library on reinforcement learning code. It consists of 5 blocks. The first block is agent and is responsible for the learning process. In our case, it will be the LSPI algorithm. The next one is domain. This is where the Markov decision process is located and this is the thing that we're going to solve. The third one is policy, and is the action that the program will take according to the current state. The fourth one is representation, and this is the current value function. Finally, experiment is a class that can connect the all above 4 classes to form a complete program. Until now, we have successfully applied the LSPI sample program in our PY library. The task given to the program is moving from the starting position to the ending position without touching the prohibited zone. The code could complete this task after the learning process. However, until now, no self-defined classes is used and only the classes given in the LSPI library is used. This means the LSPI algorithm that we're currently working on is not for our exoskeleton. This problem will be further discussed in the later session. In this screenshot, the domain window located on the bottom right of the screen shows the setup of the task. In this task, the blue square is the starting position and the green square is the ending position. The red squares are prohibited area where the code should never enter. The value function window located on the upper right corner on the screen shows the change of value and policy across the map. The green squares represent the square with high value and is on the optimal path, where the red squares can be kind of considered as the don't care squares. The arrows on the square indicates the policy, and the best policy will be in black. The last window on the left hand side is the performance window, which shows the reward of the program after certain steps. In this graph, you can see that after around 500 steps, the reward is increased to around 0.7. This proves the LSPI algorithm itself is promising. The problem that we're facing with LSPI algorithm is that we have to declare at least 3 classes on our own. These classes including domain, policy, and representation. Since we're going to use LSPI algorithm to help our exoskeleton to learn the policy making process, these classes need to be tailor-made in order to use the data collected from our exoskeleton and to output the correct motor torque to the exoskeleton. Extra time is needed for defining the cost function as well as the state and reward function. We believe that once these formulas are resolved, the problem is likely to be solved.
Unlike the existing plan to control the exoskeleton robot itself, the problem was simplified. In order to overcome the nonlinearity of the actuator when controlling position and force, new hardware was developed, referring to the twisted string actuator mechanism in the exoskeleton joint. This can lift objects or interact with humans with mechanical linear movement in the y-directional. We observed the nonlinearity of the hardware with repetitive movement data. As shown in the video, we can observe that the height is different even if the motor rotation is the same as clockwise and counterclockwise. As shown in Figure 1, we found a problem that the position trend of the end effector is continuously changing. As a result of analyzing over time, even if the motor is controlled with the same amount of rotation, it shows the different height data. The reason that this phenomenon is a problem is that different control rules are required depending on the direction of rotation. We need to know the point where the twisting transition from clockwise to counterclockwise to establish the accurate control rule. However, as shown in the figure 4, the twisted transition position keeps changing. Also, this nonlinear phenomenon continuously changes the minimum position of the twisted transition point as shown in figure 5. When these problems are coupled, the corresponding area is like a black box. So we are going to solve this issue with the LSPI algorithm. To conduct the experiment with the LSPI algorithm developed in Python, we implement the serial communication between PC and hardware. In the picture, collected data from hardware will be used as the state of the LSPI algorithm, and the calculated action will be sent back to the hardware as a reference signal.
Okay, so now coming to the improvement plan. So first improvement that we are working on is the KLSPI, that is kernel-based least squared policy iteration. So it's given in this paper. So firstly, there are two problems in LSPI. First is finding the optimal solution policies, and the second is that it requires manually selecting the approximate structure. So what is KLSPI? Basically, kernel function is a function that maps a state space into an undefined space on which computational can be done. So it has many uses. It uses two algorithms. The first one is kernel least square temporal difference, the KLSTDQ, and the second one is the ALD based algorithm. So these two combined can help solve these two problems, and it guarantees performance and convergence. So looking at the algorithm first. So KLSP algorithm is shown here on the left. It uses the kernel function initially and the initial policy function, and it uses the KLSTD and ALD based kernel, which is given here in the algorithm too. And after using that, we can get the output using the equation given here. So what is KLSTDQ algorithm? It requires a sample data and a kernel function. It uses the state action pair, and ALD coefficients, through which the state action pairs are updated in each loop, after which the sample data is updated also using these equations down below here. So utilizing this, we can see we made a sample program written on the MATLAB, and we compared the LSPI and KLSPI. The SEMs are the errors produced on the sample data. As you can see here, the error is much lesser in KLSPI as compared to LSPI, which is a promising sign, as KLSPI is proving to be a better option. So the second improvement plan that we are working on is the deep deterministic policy gradient. It is shown here in the main network. The blue one is the actor and the red one is the critic. The actor takes in the observations, and the critic takes in the action and observations and produces Q, which measures how good the action is. So utilizing this function, we can train our object until the target network is achieved. So basically here we created a sample test program for the DTPG, and we created a LSPI program for this inverted pendulum. This is before training, and this is after training. So it balances out. So as can be seen here, the DTPG results are very close to the LSPI, but DTPG takes much lesser time, which shows that DTPG can be utilized for our 2 degree of freedom exoskeleton. So coming to the problem and the further plan, we have to create our own domain, policy and representation classes, as well as we have to create cost function, state and reward function for the exoskeleton, so we need more time. And also we have to right now figure out whether we would use KLSPI or DTPG for the improvement. So as KLSPI is written in the MATLAB, it is very difficult to use in the continuous real world data. And also KLSPI, as can be seen, the performance is better, but DDPG, it has a faster and easier solution. So we have to decide these. Thank you for listening to our presentation. You can contact us on these emails for any questions.